You know, reverb has been something of an obsession of mine for as long as I can remember making music. This Reverb FX rack that I'm about to give away to you for free for Ableton is without doubt the most requested FX rack that I've had from members, from all variety of different people wanting to know how I get this kind of reverb sound. So not only am I going to show you how it's done, I'm going to give it away. And as I say, I've used this on everything from soundtrack work, where I've written tracks for documentaries like Generation Iron 2, and also on my work with the likes of Sasha, Junkie XL, practically everybody that I've engineered for, as well as all of my own tracks over the last few years. So let's take a look at what the MYT Accelerator Reverb can do for you. So as you can see, I've got it open here right now on Send A, or on Return Channel A, I should say. And again, I'm just going to open it up and we can take a look. It's incredibly simple, but it works brilliantly. And to this day, I still can't find a reverb that does this in such a satisfying way. So the trick really is with the high pass filter. It really does just cut all the mud and all the low end out. And what it allows me to do is kind of like cheat at reverb, basically. It allows me to do things with reverb that really you ought not to. Like send low-end information through a reverb, because again, it's going to catch the high end. And with the settings on the reverb itself, as you'll see in a second, it's really important that that's the case. So you can see on the reverb itself, it's incredibly wide, it's incredibly stereo, everything's just turned up to the max. But more than anything, again, there's that low cut on the input processing. And again, dry wet set to 100%. The decay time is 16.3 seconds. So it's just one of these incredibly washy, diffused, real sort of ambient, again, accelerator style reverbs that you can think of, rather than something short that just gives a little bit of perspective and space. This is essentially using reverb almost like a synth, almost like a rider in its own right. And then to top it off, I've got something that you would call a rise filter. And there's a little bit of trickery going on here, because if I go over to the macro and sweep this up, you can see I've got both frequency cutoff and resonance set to the same macro. And that gives me this almost like a kind of a formant filter kind of vibe. Not saying it is a formant filter, but it's just got that kind of quality to it. And that can be really useful for various types of build-ups and, again, extra sound design. So let's look at a couple of different ways that you can use this and get an idea of its sound, and we'll dispense a couple of sound design tips while we're at it. So what I've got loaded in is a couple of groups from my track Form Constants, which came out last year on Bedrock. Some of you might have heard of it. Some of you might have not. That's okay. And I'm going to play around with them and show you some typical use cases about how I tend to use it. First and foremost, it's like a riser. Like I've said, it's almost like a kind of a, again, that's why I've called it the Accelerator Reverb. So from here, what I'll do is I'll just play the drums on their own, and then I'll just do a little send over to Send A. As you can hear, that's still sort of dying out a little bit, so that's quite a cool thing, right? And again, you can appreciate now, I'm sending the entire drum group out. That's kick and everything else, all that low-end stuff like the toms and everything, still sending it out, and it sounds great. It's got that real wide diffusion kind of vibe to it. And again, you can do little tricks, like, say, for example, if I go into my sort of kick here, and if I just roll off some of the top end here, or so the bottom, And then the bass comes back in and the dance floor goes crazy when people are allowed back on dance floors, or when they were allowed on dance floors, one of the two. So again, I'm using this almost as like a kind of a build-up and as kind of a riser, as I've mentioned before. So that's one really typical kind of use case. The other is for using it to widen and, again, add an extra element of excitement to synths. So this is actually the main sort of arpeggio line from Form Constant. So if we have a little listen to that. Now that's already got a lot going on with it, but nothing that a little bit of reverb can't handle or help with, you know? So let's... And just soloing it there, it kind of really shows you that the main point of that sound is, you know, the synth is obviously important, but the reverb was what really took that sound over the edge when I was creating it. And I've just found that this reverb is so flexible and really has helped me in every context of every style of music that I make, whether it's melodic techno stuff like this, whether it's more organic house, whether it's proper techno, whether it's film soundtrack stuff. I've even put orchestras through this thing and it sounds phenomenal. And again, it's reverb not for realism, it's reverb for, well, you know, shits and giggles, basically, without putting too fine a point on it. And it's more of a sound design kind of reverb, right? So I soloed that there so you can get the idea of how it sounds on its own. And it sounds great. It almost sounds like a synth pad. And this is what I mean. It's like it's using reverb like an instrument rather than just an effect that you tend to just put over things because that's what you should do, right? So I'm also a big proponent of resampling. So one of my common techniques, and again, how you can use this reverb rack, is to set an audio track. I always have a resampling track in all of my sound design sessions anyway, super handy. And then I will just mute that and then record arm it. And again, what will happen is when I hit record here is that it's going to record the sound of the reverb only because it is soloed. And it will essentially capture everything that's going through the master channel of Ableton into a new audio file. Super useful. Wish and I'll just stop playing the clip there and it will just sort of die away nice and naturally. And there's all kinds of things that we can do with this. And, you know, I'm really excited by the possibilities here. So that's kind of died off enough. Quite happy about that. Let's unsolo that and then let's focus in on the resampling channel. Take it off record arm. We're good to go. Now, one of the things that I like to do here is I like to do this kind of trick with the warp engine. And again, apart from the fact that now I can transpose reverb, play that on its own. So you can do all kinds of weird things with that, right? Not only that, we're going to be able to do some really interesting things on the granular level with this audio file. So I'm going to go to beats mode, which is a bit weird, right? Because there's no beats in it. But bear with me. I'm going to take it off preserve transients and I'm going to put it on 16ths. Now this little button here is how those 16th notes play together. In terms of when it's in beats mode, it will cut the audio file into 16th note chunks and effectively play them at whatever tempo or whatever pitch is required and fill in the gaps basically. So here in its default mode, it will play the 16th note forward and backwards in a way to fill gaps in if it's played a lot slower, that kind of thing. Now, in this case, I just want it to play that transient, the 16th note, and for it to stop. The 100 you see in here is quite literally just an envelope. It's almost like a crossfade. So again, if I put that down from 100 and play it, you'll hear exactly what I mean. Now the funny thing about that, send it back to the reverb. And you can have all kinds of fun with that. And again, it changes completely depending upon what kind of material you put through it. So literally you can put anything you can turn your imagination to through this reverb, pop it through the other side, render it out using a resample, pitch it, mangle it with beats mode, put it in completely the wrong warp mode, do whatever you like, and it is going to have an amazing effect. So enjoy this reverb, really, really dig into it and really see what you can achieve with it. It's so flexible, it's so simple, but it works, and it's one of the reasons why it's been on everything that I've done for possibly the last 10 years. So, as you can tell, love this thing. I can't wait to hear what you guys are going to do with it. Feel free to drop us a line to the website or the YouTube channel, the Facebook page, etc. Drop me a line via email. Do whatever you need to do. Everything will be around this video that you need to know. And yeah, enjoy it, and I'll speak to you soon.